I want to welcome you to Thrive in the Word. We're studying the church at Laodicea. And so go to Revelations, the 3rd chapter, verse number 14. And this is what Jesus says to the church at Laodicea. To the angel of the church at Laodicea write, the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God, says this. Now, that's Jesus's introduction into this church. First of all, he says, I am the Amen. Now, what does it mean to be the Amen? You know, a lot of people think that Amen is just what we say at the end of a prayer. But really, this word Amen, it's a word that means so be it. And we understand that it affirms that Jesus is the one who is true, that he is completely true. In other words, when you say, when a preacher is preaching real good and you say amen to his message, you know what you're saying? You're saying, I believe that what you're saying is true. And so Jesus says, I am the Amen. In other words, I am the truth. I am the one who's not going to lie to you. Now, why is that important? Because Jesus is going to confront this church at Laodicea. And so he says to the church at Laodicea, he says to them, I am the true one. I am the Amen. Jesus has already said to his disciples, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now Jesus is saying it again to the church at Laodicea. What I say is right. And then the next thing that Jesus says, he says, I am the faithful and true witness. Jesus is calling himself a witness. Now, the Greek word for witness is martyrs. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, a witness was a person who would give his life for his statement. In other words, if he would make a statement, he would make it with such intensity that he may be risking his life. Actually, the word martyrs is where we get the English word martyr from. Do you understand what Jesus is saying? He's saying, I am making this statement about you, and I am basing my life upon this. I am the witness. I am the one who's going to tell you the truth. Now notice he describes himself with two adjectives. I am the faithful witness. He is faithful. Jesus describes himself in this way. I am the faithful witness. Now, faithfulness means that you can rely upon what he's going to say. You can trust in what he's going to say. Now, for the people at Laodicea, Jesus is not going to say very nice things. But you know what? No matter what Jesus says, you can trust it because he is the faithful witness. But then he goes on and he says that I am also the true witness. Jesus speaks only what is true. Now, we need to understand that when Jesus says true, he uses a Greek word that's a compound Greek word. And the first part of that Greek word is the prefix a, and it means to be without something. But then the last part of that Greek word, and it's letho, and the last part of it means to escape notice. Now, what is Jesus saying? When you put that Greek word together, it means something that is real and there is no escaping the evidence. In other words, it's something that is so real that there's no way that you could ever doubt it. And so Jesus is saying to this church, he's saying, I am the faithful and true witness. I am the one who was basing his life upon what I'm going to say. But Jesus isn't ending there. He goes on and he says, I am the beginning of the creation of God. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, let me tell you. What Jesus is saying here, he's saying, you know what? I have this authority. I have the authority of being the very first person to initiate something. You know, we have in our country what we call copyright laws. If a person writes something or invents something, you know what? There is a law that says that people cannot impede upon that product or upon that writing or upon that song. Somebody can't just come in and change it. And when Jesus says, when he says, I am the beginning of the creation of God, you know what he's saying? He's saying, I am the one who created it all. Wow, think about that. What's Jesus saying? What does Jesus mean by this saying, I am the beginning of the creation of God? Jesus is really saying, I am the Lord over it all. Jesus is making a very, very powerful statement to this church at Laodicea. He's saying, I'm not going to lie about what I've got to say to you. He says, I'm the one who brings the truth. I am the Amen. In other words, it's going to be, this is the way it is. But he's also saying, I am the one who created you. How many of you know that Jesus is the head of the church? He is the creator of the church. And Jesus is saying to this church at Laodicea, I am the Amen. I am the faithful and true witness. In other words, I'll give my life for what I've got to say. And then he's saying, I am the beginning of creation. In other words, I am the utmost in authority. I am the Lord of Lords, the beginning of all creation. Whoa. Jesus is telling the church at Laodicea something that's very, very powerful. He's describing himself in a very powerful way. Now, what does he say to the church at Laodicea? Join us tomorrow as we continue our study of this church at Laodicea. Thanks for watching.